We think that everybody communicates in the same way. We've built everything around the fact that everybody communicates in the same way. But along we've forgotten one simple thing, that there is no shared language for everyone. For some people, the biggest struggle in life isn't about intelligence or creativity or effort. The biggest struggle in life is that they cannot represent their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions because they do not have a language to communicate. I didn't come at this realization through any theory or research, but I came at this realization through an experience. About 2 years ago, my dad and I went to an autism center for an event. This was a normal event, and we were doing what people usually do at these kind of events. Sitting, talking, chatting, and we were all relatively pleased with ourselves for having been there. But suddenly, out of nowhere, I saw a man, a full-grown 25-year-old man running towards my dad at full speed, grunting. At that moment, I froze, and I couldn't consciously process anything that was happening. And before I knew it, that same boy had whacked my dad straight on the head, really, really hard. Later, I found out what triggered him. My dad was wearing a pocket square, and that very man was autistic. Something about the color, the sudden visual contrast, and the movement had triggered him. But he didn't have the words to tell us that please move away or this is too much. So you know what? His body spoke for him instead. That day, I realized something. That moment had revealed something to me, and what stayed with me wasn't just the shock of that moment, but it was also that communication had failed. Not because there was bad intention or because the boy didn't try to, control himself. It had failed because there was no shared language, because we haven't tried to reach out and understand what other people are wanting to communicate if they don't speak the same language as us. After that, I fell into a complete rabbit hole of investigation. I started reading about sensory overload, emotional regulation, different communication styles. And I realized that different moments like these, like the one I just described to you before, are often misclassified, not as distress, but as behavior problems. Now look, I'm not autistic, but I realized that communication needs to improve over the next couple of years, decades, and centuries. And to do this, we need to involve people that exist on all of the extremes. Those are neurotypical, neurodivergent, and everybody that you can think of. Now, let me tell you a statistic here. In India, one in every 68 individual is under the spectrum. That is a huge number. Now imagine, still despite this great population, there is still limited assessment in India, and because of the stigmatization that exists, everything just gets pushed under the carpet and we don't reach a goal. What ends up happening is that we cannot develop proper, practical ways to help these individuals develop and grow their skills on a daily basis, which is something that I want to change. After this, I really started thinking about communication. Communication led me to think about theatre. Not about theatre as performance or theatre as acting, but what theatre had done for me personally. It had helped me read a room. It helped me to, understand what people are trying to say. It helped me be aware of my movement, of my voice, of my body, of people around me. And I thought to myself that if theatre can do so much for someone like me so naturally, what could it do for somebody who experiences the world in a way that's so much more intense and so much more unpredictable? I realized that theatre doesn't just teach behavior, but it trains awareness. Now, I'm going to talk about something which has bothered me for a long time. And I think that you might have heard of this, or well, at least if you're around my age, you might have heard of it. Or if you've seen Amir Khan dressed up as a special educator talking on a silver screen, you might have heard of it. Imagine this. Somebody is acting a little bit awkward or a little bit different than usually. And there's somebody else who comes up and says, oh, look at her, she's acting weird, she must be autistic. Or look at that, he must be autistic. What's actually sad about it is that this term gets thrown around so casually without any meaning or any regard for what it actually connotes. This word, this term, it gets put as a label for behavior. and it completely ruins the connotation of the whole thing. Neurodivergence is not about being strange or about being different. Neurodivergence is about how your brain processes different things like information, sensory input, and social cues. And these are things which become a lot more visible in places which are loud, unpredictable, and fast. There's a lot of research studies which show that even more than neurotypical individuals, neurodivergent people have a greater ability to do pattern recognition and have deep focus. But you know what the problem is? The only problem is that we, as people, we cannot provide them the right platform to share whatever thoughts they're thinking, because we share a different language, because they aren't always verbal, and there's a lot of communication differences that occur. More research studies show that cognitively diverse teams, meaning teams which have people of different cognitions, are 3 times more likely to solve a complex problem. And organizations which are genuinely neuro-inclusive are 75% more likely to actually go from a real problem to a real solution. I think that statistic shows a lot about our society and about a lot of things that we need to change. Moreover, neurodivergent individuals exist in the exact same spaces as us. Then what's the difference? The difference is that for them, they feel those spaces in a way that's a lot more intense and a lot more unpredictable. So when reactions happen as a response to that, what happens? We classify it as bad behavior, when really it's not about their intention or about their effort. It's just about how their brain sees the world. And this isn't something that we should blame them for. It's something that we should be a leading light or a guiding hand for, and we should guide them through it. Moreover, instead of looking at fixing individuals, we should be looking at fixing environments. Why? What does fixing environments do? When we fix environments, we give humans a chance, a platform to find the place where they can regulate, communicate, and adapt. And this isn't just about like us and neurodivergent individuals. It's about me and you. I could have a different way of understanding something, and you could have a different way of understanding something. And we should be free enough to give people a platform to embrace whatever way that it is that they need to, regulate and communicate and adapt. Moreover, when we look at changing environments, it helps us notice clearer patterns in all of the things that I've just mentioned to you. And with these clearer patterns, we understand that people who struggle the most in environments which are loud and unpredictable and intense are the ones who benefit the most when these same environments become safe, structured, and a lot more intentional. For neurodivergent individuals, the margin of error is also a lot smaller. For someone who might be feeling a mild level of stress for something, somebody else could feel extremely overwhelmed about it. They could feel extremely overwhelmed about it. And this isn't just about their effort or intention, but it's simply about their way and their body. And coming back to theatre offers us something that real world environments don't: clear boundaries, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And because of these clear boundaries, we understand that it has shared rules and has shared focus, but also flexibility that exists within these rules. So help people take their emotions out of their head and into movement, into voice, and into body, making them clearer and easier to manage and to notice. Moreover, moving on, you might have heard of something called 21st-century skills. Now, this is something that we might talk about a lot, but we don't really define them. Words like collaboration, communication, adaptability, emotional awareness, all of these words come under 21st-century skills. Now, I'm going to give you another example. Imagine that you're on stage and your co-actor has to deliver a 2-minute monologue, but they suddenly forget all of their lines. What are you supposed to do? Because there's no instruction manual, no one whispering in your ear telling you what to do. This is a perfect example of supporting someone without overtaking, because at this moment, your support, your energy, your movement, and your thoughts, your body is the one that has to make the decisions and do something which is going to be beneficial. At that moment, that is like the perfect example of how you can adapt and do something at that moment that's the best. If I ask any of you how you learn to do things like, read a room or adapt under pressure or learn to handle a conflict that's happening before your team members, I'm sure that we won't be able to answer where exactly we've learned any of these skills. But the thing is that all of us are expected to know these skills, and we're all expected to do these skills and perform these skills everywhere, whether it's a workspace, a school, a hospital, like working as a school, as a student, as a teacher. And the thing is that these are what we call 21st century skills that we need at a daily basis. The world is changing a lot faster than our ability to prepare people for it. And for this, we don't just need technical skills, we need human skills. And theatre is the thing that makes those things tangible. Collaboration becomes shared awareness. Communication becomes just listening and responding. And adaptability becomes the moment that something unpredictable happens and you don't freeze. No, this isn't just theory, this is practice, because theatre allows you to do these things in real life, understand where you can improve and understand where you're doing well. And the thing is that every single individual in the world should have access to 21st century skills, should have access to theatre. But the thing is, not everybody has the same spaces, mentors, and consistency to be able to do this. And this is the point where technology quietly enters the picture. With tools, with technology, we can help individuals learn things like regulation, adaptability, communication in ways that they feel that they're not judged. This also helps us deal with a lot of uncomfortable stereotypes. Like, for example, when we look at the neurodivergent sector, a lot of the jobs that people associate with autistic people is something very, very basic. Things like stringing together some flowers, sorting or organizing some objects, painting a pot. And while these activities keep them engaged, they don't necessarily keep them included. Why shouldn't neurodivergent or autistic individuals have the ability, have the right to collaborate, to lead, to earn with dignity? And this isn't just a question of inclusion, it's a question of sustainability. What happens when caregivers go old, when parents age, when the support systems weaken, when any person on the spectrum is 60, 70, 90 years old? That's why it's extremely important for us to equip every single human being with transferable, real-life usable 21st century skills. Here, if we don't do this, then we're not just delaying independence, but we're increasing dependence. And this is something that we completely don't want to do. In this world, we're not lowering our expectations, but we're building capacity. We're allowing people that with these tools, we can meet them where they are instead of meeting them where we want them to be. And this is this is the place where something actually shifts, and that is the magic of theatre. Thank you.